Creed 3 was a really entertaining movie. I just think it was missing something. Hey, what's up, nerd fam? This is your boy Gashawn. I want to welcome you to Enter the Nerd. Today, I want to talk to you about Creed 3. Yes, I'm a little late, but I wanted to make sure that I got to this one because I thought it was a really good movie. And there's some things to talk about because there were some things missing in a narrative that I think we should really talk about that's inside of it. Also, there are spoilers, so if you haven't seen it, beware. Let's move on. So, Creed 3, as we know, is part of the Creed franchise. This is the third installment. It's also part of the entire Rocky franchise as well. However, there is no Rocky in this film. We are going to talk about that in a little bit, which isn't necessarily, it's not the worst thing in the world, but I believe there was something missing without him being in there. But let me not get too ahead of myself. Let's just talk about the movie. I believe, obviously, Michael B. Jordan, he's an excellent actor. So is Jonathan Majors, who plays Dame, the antagonist of the film. You can definitely believe their chemistry they have when they're in the ring. You can tell they absolutely trusted each other to not pull any punches. They got into amazing shape. And the story was pretty straightforward, although not perfect. So I understood the story about, Michael B. Jordan being around this guy who was probably going to be the future of boxing at that time. He gets out the car while Michael B. Jordan is getting jumped, which, by the way, Michael B. Jordan's character, Adonis, starts and pulls out a gun to save him. He gets caught with the gun. He goes to jail for like 18 years and comes out and is like, you forgot about me, and is just determined to take everything that he believes that should have been his. Okay, I guess. Now, while I understand the story and it's easily digestible, I believe there were some things that should have happened in the middle of it to make it make a little bit more sense. And we know Adonis is supposed to be like the aging boxer, the aging hero, but he actually doesn't seem to be right in this situation. Because, yes, he was a kid. Pretty much when that whole situation happened with Dame when he was younger, while Dame was getting arrested with that gun, he just ran away. And while he was a kid, and I don't blame him for running as a kid, it's almost like he forgot Dame existed up until this point. So in the movie, they try to say that Dame was writing him letters from prison, but his mom was keeping it from him. When he grew up, there was so many chances for him to go and see him, especially because Creed 3 takes place a few years, like quite a few years after the first Creed. You mean to tell me at no point he could have gone to this prison to go see him and figure out what's going on? Because if it were me and I was in that situation, I would just say, hey, whenever you get out, I got you. If you need a job, as long as he's responsible and everything's going on, I got him. Because in the end of the day, he didn't have freedom. I did. And even though, it was a crime that he committed, the intention was to save my life if I was in that position. So you can't just forget about him. All of a sudden, he has to, come to you outside of your boxing gym. And even this whole thing about him thinking that he should be taking what's his. I think, actually, my friend Hannah said this point. He said, maybe they should have shown him visiting him and something happening there where Dame is like, you're taking everything that I, some type of disagreement where when he does come out, we understand what that vendetta is. But he kind of just came out, hadn't seen him for 18 years. He had one of the guys that he was in jail, that he was in jail with, come out and injure a contender of another boxer just so he can get a chance later on in the film. It was kind of strange in that regard. I understood the overall story. I think the overall story made sense, but it wasn't perfect. And Adonis is not the hero, really, in this. He did kind of fuck up. So everyone's saying, you don't owe this guy anything. You don't owe this guy anything. In a way, you do. Because Adonis pretty much saw a guy that was abusing him inside of the group home that he was in. Saw him and started beating him up. Then he proceeds to get jumped by that guy's friends, to which Dame, as a young guy, comes up the car, pulls out a gun to save his life. So let's just say a couple things could have happened here. One, Adonis could have just minded his business and went back to the car. Or let's just say Dame didn't see him in time. He he might have just died out there that night getting jumped by these people. It was his fault. He started it. So he does owe him. He does. So yeah, Dame coming out, you know, trying to take everything that he has, that makes him the villain. But his feelings in regards to the matter are actually legitimate. You did forget about him. I mean, it's been about 20 years. You didn't think to go visit or do anything. You needed a letter to get that. Whatever. And his mom actually wasn't good for that either, because in the end of the day, she's trying to separate them, but he's in jail. It's not like he can go hang out with him inside of there. It was weird. It was weird as far as those motivations, but the overall story of the film, it was solid. The scenes were cool. Obviously, there's a punch that people have seen that's very anime. A couple punches that are anime inspired, whether it's Hajime no Ippo or Dragon Ball Z. There's a couple. They actually made they have a little picture showing all the punches and the animes for which he got them from, which is cool because I think he's like 2 or 3 years older than me. So we were watching some of the same things. So I appreciated that touch. People who didn't know anime, they didn't really understand like those directing choices, but anyone who knew, they knew, right? Now, what was missing by way of Rocky in this film? That's very good to talk about. Rocky in this entire series has been his like surrogate father figure, seeing as how Apollo's not there. So him just randomly not being there was rather jarring, because why wouldn't he be there in that part of his life? Because also Adonis's child would almost be like his surrogate grandfather. Now, there's 2 versions to the real life story as to why Rocky is not in it, or Sylvester Stallone. I saw 2 different clips and they're both rather contradictory, so I don't know which one is actually more true to Sylvester Stallone. One, Sylvester Stallone says that because of the producer that he sold the franchise 2 years ago was involved in it, thinks it's dirty that he didn't sell it to him back. He doesn't want to be involved in any film that the producer is involved in, which is going to be any future Rocky anything, right? Got it. But then another video I saw was him explaining to an interviewer that the reason why he's not in it is because he felt like Rocky had nothing to do. He was going to be a side character. And he was like, he felt like this story was really more Creed focused and he just shouldn't be in it because of that. And if they make a Creed 4, he would want to be in it. That's 2 different things though. So I don't know which one is true, or they can't both be true. You can't say, I don't want to be in there because of the producer who would be involved in that Creed 4 you were just talking about, or is it the story? Either way, I think that even if Rocky took a step back, he still should have been in it, seeing as how integral he's been in his life as a fighter and just as a development of a human being that Adonis has been. So it was kind of weird not having him there, and maybe even Rocky would have disagreed with other people that were telling him, hey, you owe him nothing. Maybe he'll be like, why didn't you do that? Maybe you gotta come to grips with the fact that you didn't do all the right things. Maybe it is what it is. So I think that was missing. If they do make a Creed 4, it's most likely not going to be about Adonis. I mean, it looks like they're getting ready for the daughter to do something. And even though a lot of people would probably assume she'd be boxing, I think mixed martial arts would actually be really good if they go into the future and do that. Because to be honest, women's mixed martial arts is much more popular than boxing, than the women's boxing. It is, if we're being honest. And I think that'd be actually really, really cool. And she's supposed to be deaf, so that would play a very significant role in this. I'm down with it. It'd actually be a rather nice progression if it goes into her career and Michael B. Jordan's older and stuff like that and all that stuff. I'd actually be interested in that. But like I said, I thought that them portraying him as a hero or the good guy was kind of off considering everything we know. And Rocky not being there proved to be a detriment to this film because he is the spirit of this franchise. Their relationship is super important. That like surrogate father relationship, somebody who is looking out for him and, you know, kind of opens him out of his shell, especially now that he's having a better relationship with his own children, like his own biological children. That also be something that plays into this relationship, which I would have liked to see, but we didn't. So I guess we'll see what's going on. But overall, not a bad film, but I don't think it was the best out of the 3. My favorite is 2 because it took the elements from 1 and carried them over to 2, but made it better, especially with the whole Victor Drago, who showed up in this film, not in the same condition, obviously, because he was just, you know, he wasn't meant to be in that condition physically. He was a little soft this time, but I liked that, especially because Victor Drago's story as the villain or the antagonist in this was still good because he was trying to prove himself for his father and for his mom that abandoned both him and his father after Ivan Drago lost. I thought that was actually really cool. Now, I just think 1 and 2 were definitely much better films, and also they happen to have the glue, which would be Rocky. That'd actually be really, really cool. But yeah, that's about it. Let me know what you think. Did you really like Creed? Did you think it was the best, Creed 3, pardon me? Did you think it was the best one? Which one did you think was the best out of the 3? Let's talk about it. Enter the Nerd.